Through research and interviews, this group of individuals was able to apply Erin Meyer's concepts from her book, The Culture Map, to countries in different parts of the world and compare them to customs in the United States. The countries researched were Japan, Austria, Germany, and Poland. The three concepts pulled from the culture map are communication, low context versus high context, evaluation, direct versus indirect negative feedback, and trusting, relationship based versus task based. The first of the four countries that was researched was Japan. Tokyo is the capital of Japan, located in the southeast part of the country. Japanese is the primary spoken language in Japan with a population of over 126 million as of 2017. Their top export is motor vehicles. The next country that was researched was Poland. The capital of Poland is Warsaw, located in the eastern part of the country. The primary language spoken is Polish, and the population is over 38 million as of 2017. Their top export is machinery, and they have a GDP of $1.126 trillion. The third country that was researched was Germany. The capital of Germany is Berlin, located in the northeastern part of the country. The primary language spoken is German, and the population is over 80 million. The top export is machinery, vehicles, and electrical equipment/machinery, and Germany has a GDP of $3.701 trillion. For comparative statistics, the group also researched the same stats for the United States. The capital of the U.S. is Washington, D.C. The top exports are food, beverage, and animal feed, with a GDP of $19.39 trillion. The final country that was researched was Austria. The capital of Austria is Vienna, located in the eastern part of the country. The primary language spoken is German. Their primary export is machinery, and the GDP is $417.4 billion. When evaluating the countries, the group wondered what challenges would arise for the various countries when doing business with one another. To answer these questions, they created a culture map comprised of where the four countries stood on the various dimensions previously mentioned. The first applied concept of the culture map is communicating, high context versus low context. The United States is farthest to the low context part of the spectrum, showing their tendency to rely on explicit verbal communication. Germany and Austria are also closer to the low context end of the spectrum. One example of a communication barrier between an Austrian and an American was when an Austrian exchange student living in the U.S. no longer wanted to attend church with her host family because she wasn't religious. She explained to her host mother that she didn't want to go anymore, and the American host mother took offense. The exchange student didn't explain that she didn't mind that the family was religious, and the host mother interpreted the message as, "Your family is religious and I am uncomfortable with that," rather than in the intended message, "I attend church with your family for a while to respect you, but my beliefs are not the same as yours." Poland is closer to the center of the spectrum, showing that they can be both high context and low context, dependent on the situation. In contrast to other countries, Japan is on the high context side of the spectrum. People in Japan relay information, yet intend for the listener to understand an underlying message. They expect people to read the air from cues they are providing. That is what makes communicating in Japan different from other countries researched. The second applied concept of the culture map is evaluating, direct versus indirect negative feedback. Germany is the most direct when giving negative feedback. From the perspective of someone who has worked in Germany, positive work ethic and behaviors are recognized as normal, and certain accomplishments are not recognized as remarkable. Instead, they are just seen as part of the job. Austria is also mainly direct when giving negative feedback. When evaluating performance, Austrians are more likely to give direct negative feedback, but are not as direct as Germans. However, this truly depends on how much the two parties know each other. A person would be more direct with a friend, but wouldn't do it in public. With an employee, bosses tend to dance around the negative feedback, but don't follow the 3 positives for every negative technique like in the US, and ultimately deliver the negative feedback directly. The US is closer to the middle of the spectrum when compared to Austria and Germany, but generally takes a more direct approach when giving negative feedback. When going through a performance review, the Polish people tend to use direct negative feedback, however, it depends on the circumstances. When evaluating performance, Japanese people use indirect negative feedback. The negative message someone is trying to express is wrapped in positive feedback. It is important to recognize that a Japanese individual may feel attacked when receiving feedback from an American. The delivery of presenting negative feedback differs greatly from country to country. Messages may not be interpreted and understood as intended if they are unfamiliar with the general ways to give negative feedback. The third applied concept of the culture map is trusting, task-based versus relationship-based. Both Germany and Austria are very task-based in their approach to trust. In business, Austrians tend to have a task-based approach. Very rarely will an employee go for dinner or drinks with their boss, and the only time they do fraternize is at work parties around Christmas or other important holidays. Employees on the same level of hierarchy are slightly more relationship-based, but don't feel inclined to get to know all their coworkers on a personal level. A boss is much more likely to build trust with an employee if they are simply good at their job. This trust is built by getting their work done on time, as agreed, and meeting or exceeding expectations. Even so, the person isn't praised for completing their job and are only revered for their actions if it results in a promotion or benefits the company greatly. The trust that is seen in German business culture is that of task-based relationships. There is a large emphasis on task completion and high performance, which leaves out building trust by working on personal relationships with associates. Almost opposite from Japan, German culture does not see it necessary to build such a close personal relationship between manager and employee. A good leader in German business culture will fit into their hierarchical position and concentrate on business goals, tasks, accomplishments, and delegation of responsibilities. Poland is closer to the middle of the spectrum, but they tend to be a task-based society. It depends on the organization and how they perceive potential clients. Japan is a solely relationship-based society. In business, Japanese people will prefer to take time to get to know their colleagues and potential partners. They want to interact with each other out of the workplace setting to establish a relationship. Getting out of the office and interacting at a bar will show a person's true intentions. Japanese people would rather have you intoxicated around them than be professional when outside of the office. It shows that you have nothing to hide and therefore they can trust you. When looking at the communicating scale, the left end of the spectrum is low context, while the right side of the spectrum is high context. Low context societies have good communication that is precise, simple, and clear. Their messages are expressed and understood at face value. Often repetition is appreciated if it helps clarify the communication. High context societies have good communication that is sophisticated, nuanced, and layered. Their messages are both spoken and read between the lines. Messages are often implied but not plainly expressed. Some strategies for communication that could be implemented for this group of countries could be to have Poland and Japan adjust to the straightforward behaviors of the American, Austrian, and German team members, while the American, Austrian, and German team members need to learn to pick up on the high contextual cues of the Polish and Japanese team members. Evaluating is another conceptual scale that is explained in Aaron Meyer's book. On the left side of the spectrum, there is direct negative feedback, and on the right side of the spectrum is indirect negative feedback. Direct negative feedback to a colleague is provided frankly, bluntly, and honestly. Negative messages stand alone, not softened by positive ones. Absolute descriptors are often used when criticizing. Criticism may be given to an individual in front of a group. Indirect negative feedback to a colleague is provided softly, subtly, and diplomatically. Positive messages are used to wrap negative ones. Qualifying descriptors are often used when criticizing. Criticism is given only in private. The potential strategies that the team could use to find a middle ground between direct and indirect negative feedback. Making sure everybody knows that negative feedback is not an insult but is meant to be constructive. For the Japanese team members, explain that criticism can be expressed openly and it is not offensive to do so. The third and final scale that the team evaluated was trusting. On the left side of the spectrum, there is task-based trusting, and on the right side, there is relationship-based trusting. Task-based trust is built through their business-related activities. These work relationships are built and dropped easily based on the practicality of the situation. You do good work consistently, you are reliable, I enjoy working with you, I trust you. Relationship-based trust is built through sharing meals, evening drinks, and visits to the coffee machine. Work relationships build up slowly over the long term. I've seen who you are at a deep level, I've shared personal time with you, I know others well who trust you, therefore I trust you. Some strategies that the team could use to make sure that the Japanese team members remember that not everybody is going to want to form a personal relationship, and that is okay. Austrian, German, and Polish team members should take the time to go out for drinks and dinner with their other team members, or at least get to know them on some level. Also, having a timed schedule every week where the team has lunch together. Allow this period to go over the allocated time slot, but any team members that may want to return to work can do so when they please.